There are few foods as quietly persistent as cottage cheese. It has never been glamorous. It has never been considered exciting. And yet, for more than 100 years, it has repeatedly disappeared from the spotlight, only to return when no one expected it. How does a bowl of soft white curd survive changing fashions, celebrity diets, scientific debates, and generations of changing tastes? The answer tells us something surprising, not just about food, but about ourselves. Long before grocery stores lined entire aisles with dairy products, families made fresh cheese at home. Milk that had begun to sour wasn't always thrown away. Instead, gentle heat separated the curds from the whey, creating a soft cheese that was simple, inexpensive, and highly nutritious. Many historians believe the name cottage cheese became popular because it was commonly made in rural cottages using leftover milk. Nothing fancy, nothing wasted. For generations, it represented practicality, a food created not from abundance, but from resourcefulness. By the early 20th century, refrigeration was improving, commercial dairies expanded. Suddenly, cottage cheese could be produced safely and consistently for millions of families. During World War I and World War II, governments encouraged foods that stretched valuable resources. Meat was rationed, protein mattered. Cottage cheese quietly found its place on American tables. Cookbooks from the 1930s and 1940s began pairing it with peaches, pears, tomatoes, lettuce, and gelatin salads. Today, those combinations might seem unusual. At the time, they represented modern, healthy eating. Then came the decades that defined cottage cheese forever. The 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s. Calories became part of everyday conversation. Television advertisements celebrated slim figures. Women's magazines promised quick transformations, and sitting quietly beside a grapefruit on countless breakfast plates was cottage cheese. It became one of the symbols of dieting. Entire meal plans revolved around it, low in calories, rich in protein, easy to prepare. Unfortunately, this new reputation came with a cost. For many people, cottage cheese stopped being food. It became homework, something you endured rather than enjoyed. Generations grew up associating it with restriction instead of nourishment. Its image became almost impossible to escape. As the decades passed, food trends changed again. Yogurt became sweeter, flavored cups filled grocery shelves, string cheese became lunchbox royalty, protein bars appeared, meal replacement shakes arrived. Meanwhile, cottage cheese stayed exactly the same. No flashy marketing, no colorful packaging, no cartoon mascots. It quietly occupied a small corner of the dairy case while trendier foods stole the spotlight. For younger shoppers, it became something grandparents ate, not something they chose themselves. Then something unexpected happened. Fitness culture changed. Researchers began paying more attention to protein, not simply for athletes, but for satiety, healthy aging, and maintaining muscle throughout life. Social media exploded with recipes. People blended cottage cheese into pasta sauces, mixed it into pancake batter, whipped it into creamy dips, added it to scrambled eggs. Even ice cream recipes appeared. A food once considered old-fashioned suddenly looked surprisingly modern, not because the cheese had changed, because our priorities had. Perhaps the story of cottage cheese isn't really about cottage cheese. It's about how every generation rediscovers ordinary foods through a different lens. One generation values affordability, another values convenience, another wants fewer ingredients, another looks for protein. The bowl stays the same, only the story changes. Foods often outlive the trends surrounding them, and sometimes the simplest foods prove to be the most resilient. The next time you walk through the dairy aisle, you might notice something you've passed hundreds of times without much thought. A plain container of cottage cheese. It isn't trying to impress you, it never has. Yet somehow, through wars, changing science, celebrity diets, fitness crazes, and a century of shifting opinions, it's still here. Perhaps that's the most remarkable part of all. Not that cottage cheese became fashionable again, but that it never truly disappeared. Sometimes the quietest foods have the longest stories, and perhaps the next ordinary item on your grocery list has an extraordinary history waiting to be discovered.